Next is a 2016 question about TEEB with reference to an initiative called as the Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity. Which of the following statements is or are correct? It's an initiative hosted by UNEP IMF World Economic Forum. It's a global initiative that focuses on drawing attention to the economic benefits of biodiversity. It presents an approach that can help decision makers recognize, demonstrate and capture the value of ecosystems and biodiversity. See, it is basically an organization that has its tagline as making nature's value visible. It means that what you're trying to do over here is you are ensuring that whatever is nature has value, but they are trying to make it conveyed to humans in a economic terms so that we understand how much quantifiable it is. Okay. So statements 3 and statements 2 are correct, but the problem with statement 1 is it was not created by all of them. It was created by your European Commission along with Germany. It was not created by all of these other organizations. So the answer to this question is 2 and 3 only. We have a 2016 question which reads as, which of the following statements is or are correct? Proper design and effective implementation of UN RED Plus program can significantly contribute to protection of biodiversity, resilience of forest ecosystems, poverty reduction. This question is so clear in my mind. Why? Because a lot of time and that particular year, it was a very controversial question, as in because it had a sort of a double answer. Everyone knows protection. See, RED Plus is primarily related to your afforestation activities. So statements 1 and 2 will come is quite obvious. But statements 1 and 2 will come means there are two answers which are A and D. Now the question is if 3 will come. A lot of people who marked without 3 were shocked when the UPSC answer key came because poverty reduction is also a part of it. Why? Because a lot of times when you are afforesting areas, you have your indigenous communities over there who are dependent on forest produce for their livelihood. You're creating a sort of livelihood when you create trees, and livelihood helps in poverty reduction. So yes, the answer to this question is 1, 2 and 3. The last 2016 question that is there is, the Sustainable Development Goals were first proposed in 1972 by a global think tank called Club of Rome. The Sustainable Development Goals have to be achieved by 2030. See, even in our previous discussion, I had told you the Sustainable Development Goals was not in 1972. It came first, you had the Millennium Development Goals which were discussed to be in 2002. We kept on implementing it till 2012. And then after 2012 is where we had the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a wrong. And the Club of Rome is not related to sustainable development. It's an international treaty for certain peace related processes and everything. So it is not related to your sustainable development. And yes, when the Sustainable Development Goals did come, the timeline to achieving it was 2030. So the answer to your question over here is B2 only. Next, we have a 2015 question which reads as, with reference to the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources and the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wildlife, Flora and Fauna. What are we talking about over here? We are talking about two organizations which is IUCN and CITES. Which of the following statements are correct? The first statement is, IUCN is an organ of the United Nations and CITES is an international agreement between governments. That is the first statement. IUCN runs thousands of field projects around the world to better manage natural environments. CITES is legally binding on the states that have joined it, but this convention does not take the place of national laws. When you study international organizations, CITES happens to be one very hot topic in the recent times. Why? Because India is bound by certain provisions mentioned in CITES. Okay, and we have so far as gone on to change our national laws to accommodate for whatever we have signed at CITES. So CITES does not take the place of our national law. We have to modify our national law. Why? Because CITES is a legally binding treaty. Okay, so CITES is legally binding and it does not take the place of the national law, but when we sign a legally binding treaty, we have to make our own laws that support it. So what happens is option 3 is correct. When it comes to the other two, I want you to understand CITES is actually an international agreement between governments. So CITES is intergovernmental, but IUCN is not an organ of United Nations. IUCN is its own autonomous organization. So option 1 is wrong. So when you look at it, whenever 1 is wrong, your answer becomes very clear, 2 and 3 only. Okay, so the answer for this question is B. Next, we come across a 2015 question which reads as, with reference to an organization known as BirdLife International, which of the following statements is or are correct? It is a global partnership of conservation organizations. The concept of biodiversity hotspots originated from this organization. It identifies the sites known as important bird and biodiversity areas. Okay, tries to combine our knowledge in different aspects over here. First of all, you have to understand the second statement which says the concept of biodiversity hotspots originated. The biodiversity hotspots was created by an ecologist called as Norman Myers, and Norman Myers later on, or this technique was taken up by another organization called as Conservation International. Got it. So it is not your BirdLife International. So second statement is gone. When second statement is gone, you're left with 1 only, 1 and 3. 1 is correct. It's a global partnership of conservation organizations. 3. It defines sites known as important bird and biodiversity areas. That is also correct. Apart from that, let me also tell you, here in your BirdLife International, they also do a certain program called as your Forests of Hope. Okay, that is another future probable question that can be asked. So the answer to your question is C, 1 and 3 only. Moving forward to another 2015 question, the question reads as, with reference to your Forest Carbon Partnership Facility, which of the following statements is or are correct? It is a global partnership of governments, businesses, civil society and indigenous people. It provides financial aid to your universities, individual scientists and institutions involved in scientific forestry research to develop eco-friendly and climate adaptation technologies for sustainable forest management. It assists the countries in their REDD+ emissions from, REDD+ is basically reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation efforts by providing them with financial and technical assistance. Okay, now this is the question over here. One is financial aid, the other is financial and technical assistance. Now understand, financial aid means directly funding your activities. Financial assistance means routing them to a certain source that can maybe help them with money. Okay. In your environment sphere, one of the biggest problems as to why there are not so much environmental outcomes coming is because there are only very few organizations that give out money. Okay. Rest all try to maybe say that, yeah, we can arrange money from somewhere, we can route money to something, but to give out direct money, financial aid, something that very rarely happens. Your second statement primarily focuses on that, and that is not correct. It does not provide financial aid in the first place, and even if it does also, it is not primarily to your scientists and institutions and everything. It provides assistance to your countries that are involved. So any option which has 2 can get eliminated. Left with 1 only, 1 and 3. 3 I already told you is correct. The answer to this question is C. So it is a global partnership of governments, businesses, civil society and indigenous people, and it gives financial assistance to countries to achieve their afforestation goals. Next, we have a 2015 question which reads as, which one of the following is associated with the issue of control and phasing out of ozone depleting substances? First is your Bretton Woods Conference, Montreal Protocol, Kyoto Protocol and Nagoya. Nagoya is related to biodiversity. Kyoto is related to your climate change and carbon dioxide emissions. Bretton Woods is actually your World Bank and IMF. On the other hand, Montreal is the one that is related to your ozone depleting substances. So your answer to this question is B, Montreal Protocol.